Kids, aloha! You're back. You're back on another Sunday. Well, I can see a few of yous are back. Anyway, maybe more will show up a little later. That'll be nice. Okay, so Uncle Martin has he's got another true story for you. Another true story on Sunday. You think I'm running out of these true stories? I got news for you. Boy, I'm just thinking back. I was thinking, what could I possibly tell the kids this Sunday? Well, another couple true stories, I guess. So we got this is a thumbnail. I was thinking, what kind of thumbnail could I have? What kind of thumbnail could I have this time? Well, it's going to be under do's, the do's, and the don'ts. The do's and the don'ts. I'm going to tell you some things I did that I'm going to say that you don't want to do. So you can learn from Uncle Martin's mistakes, which we can do, kids, by the way. We can hear a story of something negative, and then we'll say to ourselves, well, that's the last thing I'm going to do then, right? Wouldn't that be learning? We're all here on this little planet out of the universe that has many billions and trillions of planets. And that's what Mom always said. Mom says, this is one of the most darkest planets in the universe. One of the most darkest. Even though it looks pretty light out there, in comparison to other planets, this is one of the ones that has to be worked on, that has to be made brighter and more cheery. And that's where you kids come in, because it's going to be you that will be holding the torch for freedom and for letting other people know that there's hope. There's still hope. That's what Uncle Martin's saying. There is still hope. Okay, let's go on to I got probably 2 or 3 stories. The last one is pretty interesting. And just hang in there. It's more than interesting. It's true, as all these stories that I've been telling you are true. So let's start with, oh God, where would you start? Arrows. Yes, arrows. I started arrows at a young age, as I said before. Dad made me a black quiver that I was able to shoot my arrow. They were suction cup shucks. You're 5 years old. You're going to have suction cup arrows to start with. Then I worked my way up. So working my way up from 5 years old, I was now making my own arrows. I had to. We were poor. Didn't have any money for arrows. In fact, I think it was my birthday on my 5th grade that I got 3 arrows. And they didn't last very long. And arrows were very expensive then as they are now. I think they were like 65 cents. And I was only making a quarter. So I'd have to, it was close to a month before I can get 1 arrow. And so I decided, since Dad was a teacher, and he taught shop, he taught mechanical drawing, he taught the arts, and he taught PE in Greenbrook, New Jersey. Anybody from Greenbrook? Hey. So I was making my own arrows. It took a while before I became proficient at it. And that's why I want to say, kids, the danger of making your own arrows. I saw Dad had these dowels, sticks, dowels. They come in different sizes. So I decided, well, this looks. I didn't have any arrow. I didn't have an arrow, so I just picked the 3/4 inch dowel. I said, this looks pretty good. And Dad says, nah, that looks a little fat, son. You should probably go a little smaller in diameter. I said, nah, Dad, this is going to just be fine. So he says, okay, go and make an arrow then, son. So I had the drill. The old drills that came down like that in shop. Anybody went to shop? I don't know if they teach shop anymore, but I had the smallest drill that went down through the dowel, and then I had a 8-penny finishing nail, and I tapped it down in, and then it was the fat end out. So the pointy point went in, the fat point was out, and then I got the grinder, and I made a nice little point. It was about 2 inches, so that would have been one digit, two digits, as we know, because I was a map reader. That's 1 inch, as we know, and 2 inches. If you have to go anywhere with a map, if you want to map readers, you know what I'm talking about. You just measure and say, yeah, this means 50 miles this for 1 inch and 100 miles for 2 inches. So we got an arrow that is now pointy. Now all I need is feathers. So as you well know, anybody that's coming in late, I grew up. We were we were in Millstone, but Grandpa still had his 5-acre chicken farm. So we had chicken feathers, as many chicken feathers as you want. So I got chicken feathers, and I made the feathers, and I just put them right on the dowel, on the other side of the dowel. Had the nail on one side, and I made the feathers on the other. I made the cut into it for it to fit into the bow, and I glued the the 3 feathers on the arrow. And I only made 1 arrow, by the way. I started out with 1 arrow. And, well, this is what happened, kids. When you see the cartoons, they say, I shot an arrow into the air and I don't care, or where it landed, I don't know where. And you remember those cartoons that never ended out positively when they just shot it into the air. Well, Uncle Martin was told way, I think when I was 5, never shoot an arrow straight up in the air. Okay, this is one of the rules. Well, when I had my 3 good arrows, I occasionally shot it kind of in the air, and it went straight up and it came straight down. I was pretty positive with it. Well, this is what happened, kids. The homemade arrow that I made, I shot straight up in the air. I just shot it because I wanted to see how high it would go, and all that. Well, what happened was, kids, it went up, and then when it came down, it didn't come straight down like a normal arrow. What it did, it came down in a big circle. Big circle. And I didn't know until later, when you make an arrow, you're supposed to fletch the piece of wood, the dowel that you're using. Fletching would be, it would be for the stabilization of the arrow, so it causes it to spin correctly when it comes out of the bow. So I didn't fletch my arrow. I didn't fletch it. So when it came down, it came in a big circle. And when you're looking at an arrow coming down at you in a big circle, you're wondering which way you go. Do you go that way? Do you go this way? Do you go that way? Do you go that way? And I didn't know which way to go. So what I did was I just I said, "Oh God, help me!" And I just put my arms up like that, and it stuck right in my arm here. It stuck, and I was looking at it, and I said, "This is not positive." So when I pulled it out, there was kind of like a little, just a little like kind of white string or something, whatever you got in your arm. And I said, "That doesn't look," so I popped it back in, and then I just went in and I put a Band-Aid on it. Okay. Now I had known that Dad said never shoot an arrow straight in the air, so I had disobeyed my father. First of all, second of all is that I was going to go have dinner now, and I was going to have to explain why do I have a Band-Aid. It wasn't just like my bro. I've got these pictures. I know I have 2 of them. I was in a monkey bars. Bro was I was 5, he was 3, and he's like, showing off his Band-Aid. And as we know, kids, you don't go and put a Band-Aid on unless you got a boo-boo, right? But bro was way ahead of his time. In fact, that was when he was 3. And then as the other picture I have is me in a red shirt with my mouse in my hand. And Aunt Nancy has her arm around my shoulder and my bro's shoulder. And what do we got? We got bro showing off his Band-Aid again. So he's in 4th grade and he's still putting on a Band-Aid when he doesn't have a boo-boo. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, kids. My bro has the dibs on all these people putting Band-Aids on and they don't have boo-boos, all right? I just wanted to put that out there. So now, oh boy. I'm sitting down at dinner and since I don't put a Band-Aid on unless I have a boo-boo, Mom and Dad want to know what I have underneath my hand, what, and Mom says, "Oh my God, what happened here?" And I said, "Oh, it's nothing, Mom. It's really nothing. That's this whole how did that hole get in your arm? How? Because because I had to come up with something, and I said, well, because I built that 2-story treehouse off the apple tree, and when I was climbing up, one of the 8-penny nails, because see, an 8-penny nail and an 8-penny finishing nail kind of have the same mark to it, and so I said I put my arm into it. And I absolutely lied over that, and I know I was, I know it was negative, not to tell the truth, but I had to come up with something because I was still, I was still under the black belt situation. We didn't merge into the switch. Remember the black belt? I think it was episode 5. Fear is cool. Come back, bro. Come back. That was the last time I got the real black belt. Then I was still in that time frame, let's say. So I got away with that on so many levels, kids. First of all, you don't go against your parents when they say, especially important things like shooting an arrow straight up in the air. So many things can happen on danger. The second thing is when we first got the house in Millstone, New Jersey, we had an acre in the front, the house, and then an acre in the back. It went down to uh, the brook or the creek. I don't know how you want to talk about it. So we at the end of the property, there was a big, tall, 3-story black walnut tree. And the first thing Mom says is, do not go down by that black walnut tree, and don't take any of those. Don't take any of them out because the green nodules, it's not ripe. They're not ripe yet. When are they going to be ripe, Mom? A couple months they'll be ripe. Yeah, okay. What do we do? Black walnuts? Are you kidding me? Black walnuts? Does not everyone love black walnuts? They're better than a regular walnut. Black walnuts have a significant taste that is fantastic. So that's pretty much by the end of the afternoon, bro and I are down there. We're knocking down all these little green nodules out of the tree. They're coming down quite easily. So we got a 2x4. We both got a hammer. And even the kids next door, Jerry and Marty, our neighbors, they came in and they were helping us too. And we're all cracking these nuts. But see, kids, this is what happens when you get a black walnut that's not ripe. What it is it's a green, it's kind of big green, and then inside the skin of the green, it's kind of a gooey black substance, and then you get the nut. Okay, it didn't stop us from cracking these, getting the nut, and we had a little black on our hands. We didn't think about it. We were just wiping it off on the grass. Plenty of grass around New Jersey, and then we cracked them. And you know what? They were tasty, but they were just not quite ripe yet. They were a little gummy. But they were tasty, very tasty. So we're all done with that, and all of a sudden we see that our hands and well, I guess bro's face, he had touched his face with his hands. And so he had kind of a little black face, and I had black hands. We all had black hands. So Jerry, next door neighbor, he's the guy that fixes lawnmowers. He was able to fix lawnmowers. Like, he was my age. He was like 10 years old, and he could take a lawnmower apart and put it back together. He was a genius on lawnmowers anyway. So we had all our black hands, and bro had a little black face, a little bit, marked wherever he was touching his face. So Jerry says, yeah, Gasoline. Gasoline will take that off. So we all put gasoline, and it wasn't really coming off. It pretty much, it wasn't. So when we got into the, when we went in for dinner, Mom saw what we did, and actually we went to Mom and said, Mom, how do we get this off? Mom, how do we get this off? She said, did I not tell you not to go down and touch the black walnut tree? Did I not tell you? Did I not say that it wasn't ripe? Yeah, Mom, you told us that, but we love black walnuts. She says, well, did you not know that that's what they make Indian ink out of? Black walnut goo before it's ready? No, we didn't know that, Mom. So how do we get it off? How do we get it off our hands, Mom? How do we get it off, bro? She says, there is nothing that takes it off. It wears off. It wears off. I'm sorry. Just thinking of bro's face. It wears. It must have been like 3 or 4 months. I had black hands, and he had kind of marks on his face. It's like a tattoo or something, but it was no design. It wears off. So there you go again, kids. How important it is when your parents or your guardians tell you not to do something. There's a reason behind it, because they've already gone through it or they know about it. And that's why it's very important to follow the rules that they give you. That's all. So I guess the third one would be how we had a green apple tree, the one that I built my 2-story clubhouse in. And that would be at the part of the house. And then by Jerry and Marty's house, they had a yellow apple orchard kind of tree. So what we used to do is we used to go in the woods 50 feet from the house. We used to get sticks, and thin sticks, and stick them into the apples and fling them. And you get pretty proficient at it when you do it for such a long time. You could hit, well, we were hitting cans. We had a 2x4 up, and we had cans, and see who could do the best with hitting them. And we got pretty proficient at that. And then it came down to where I guess Marty was about the age of Bro, and Jerry and I were about the same age. So somehow we had brothers against brothers with sticking the apples and then fling them at each other. So, it's kind of dangerous. Dad always said not to do it other than hitting the cans. See, Dad said that. Well, this one particular day, I guess one of the apples hit the house. So Dad came out and said, what did I tell you about that? Okay, Dad, we're going to just hit the cans. Well, somehow, Bro hit me with one of the green apples somewhere, and it stung. It really stung, and it wasn't quite over. This game was not quite over yet. So I was down by the creek or the brook. Is there a difference between a creek and a brook? A creek and a brook. Is there a difference? I believe a brook is shallower than a creek. Although we always called it a creek, but it wasn't a creek. It was really a brook. Okay. Just put that on the back shelf for a second. Excuse me. So I was not done with this game until I got somebody got their just desserts. So I and by the way, I went from a stick to a fishing pole. I had a fishing pole that had no eye at the end, so the kind that come apart. So I was able to, since it didn't have an eye on it, I was able to stick it in an apple. And boy, when you got a fiberglass stick like that, you are very accurate, even more than a crummy little stick. So I was more accurate than most of them. So I had stuck, I guess, this rod that I had into a yellow apple. It was a yellow apple that was kind of half yellow, and the other side was brown. It was all brown. And so it was kind of a half rotten apple, but it could still get a stick into it, the fiberglass that I had. So I had just one more shot to go to end this, and I perfectly threw it to where hit bro right in the nose, splattered perfectly, but the rotten part must have gotten his eyes, so he started screaming. Um, I don't know what he was screaming, but he was pretty upset. And I think before I was thinking in my mind, before Dad hears any of that screaming, I better get. So I drug Bro down to the creek, but it wasn't a creek because a brook is shallower than a creek. Who cares, brook or creek? It was water running. Not very much, but enough. I took my shirt off. I dropped it in there, and I rubbed my brother's face over and said, "Bro, you can see. You're okay." And he still was screaming something with, "You're gonna get a spanking." Something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but by that time, even an acre away, my dad came out, wanted to know what was going on, and of course, it was obvious that my shirt was full of rotten apple. I was I was caught, and then I explained how I got hit with an apple after we were supposed to stop. So, as you know, kids, back in the episodes, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. If somebody's crying, you're both gonna get. Uh, I think I don't know how it was. We didn't get a belt. We got to do the stick. We went out and found our switch, and we got our. So this is the time period. See, you kids are bringing back something. The black belt was after the fear thing, bro. Come back. I didn't get a black belt anymore. But then, if you remember episode, what was it? Episode 26, where Candyman, the dog food man, the smoking, where smoking is romanticized, and Aunt Nancy spilled her guts about me smoking that cigar. That's when it all changed, where we went out to this. So it would have been right about that time, where now we had merged into finding our own stick. And here, Dad, here's the stick. But we had to get it within 18 to 22 minutes, or Dad would go out and find the green switch, which there was an art to it, as I said before. You have to get just a little dead, just a little green. Too dead, it breaks. He'll go find one for you. And if you get to 1, 2, and it breaks on the third, you get a push. And that's what you live for as a child, when you have to go find your own stick to get, here, Dad, beat us with this stick. So that's what I was going to say, kids. If you're going to play that game, you play it hitting the cans, not throwing it at each other. Is all I'm saying there. Okay, so those are the three little happy stories. The other one was, and this is the last one, by the way, how we can bring on things. We can bring things on ourselves besides spankings. We can bring on sickness. We can bring sickness on ourselves. And this is how I know this, because I didn't know it. Well, I knew it when I was 18 on my second spiritual teacher when he explained it to me, but then it clicked off like a lightning bolt, because I said, oh my God, I did that when I was 6. See? It was liver and onions. Anybody loves liver and onions? That's fine. I, to this day, do not like liver and onions. Well, not only that, but I'm pretty much a vegetarian. Oh, I'm sorry. I was 6 years old. Mom made liver and onions. We all ate liver and onions. I think it was because she made that fresh lemon meringue pie, and if I didn't eat the liver and onions, I wouldn't get that. She made the best lemon meringue pie that you could ever imagine from scratch. I finished my liver and onions, didn't say anything, but in my mind I said, I'm never eating this again. Liver and onions, they ain't going down my throat again, ever again. Liver and onions, forget about it. So it was like maybe 6 months, at least a half a year before we had liver and onions. So here we are again, liver and onions. I said, no. I'm sitting at the table. I said, no, I'm 6 years old. It's 1960. I'm 6 years old. And I said, I can't eat the liver and onions. Mom, Dad says, why can't you eat liver and onions? You ate it last time. I said, because I'm allergic to it. I'm allergic to liver and onions. And they laughed. Oh, this kid's cute. He's really, and you know what? I think it was about the same time period. Leave It to Beaver. He didn't like Brussels sprouts or something, or broccoli. No, that was the president didn't like broccoli. It was definitely the beef, Brussels sprouts. Whatever episode it was, if you remember back 1960 when the beef wouldn't eat his Brussels sprouts, what happened? He had to stay at the table. He had to stay until he finished his Brussels sprouts. I don't know if he did or not. I don't know, but I remember that something about that. So where maybe I was picking it up because it was 1960 and I was 6 years old. I don't know. I don't know. But I knew I wasn't going to eat that liver and onions. I knew it. So I sat there and I said, I'm allergic to it. And Dad says, oh no, you're not getting any dessert. And I don't know what the dessert was. I could care less. I wasn't going to eat the liver and onions. He says, you're not leaving the table until you eat your liver and onions. I said, okay. Yeah. So they all went off, watched, I don't know. They watched definitely probably Yogi Bear and Huckleberry Hound. I don't know. All the cartoons that I wanted to see were going by. It must have been by I don't know. It was getting dark out, and I know that. And I was mad. See, I was mad. I was mad. I was angry. I was very mad and angry, and I was still saying I'm not going to eat this. I was telling myself I was allergic to it. I didn't know what allergic was, other than you couldn't eat strawberries or nuts or whatever it was. Yeah, you break out and you hives or blah blah blah. I don't know what it was, but I knew at 6 years old I wasn't going to eat liver and onions, and I was mad. I was angry. And what did I say? I believe on the last episode on meditation, there's 5 deadly poisons that we have to get rid of our body, or not. And in my case, I was 6 years old and I had hatred. And hatred is one of the deadly poisons. So what I did, I had so much anger that I said I wasn't eating these liver and onions, to where I brought red dots all over my face, my hands, my body. I had brought I had brought something on myself to where when my parents came in, they said, oh my God, he's allergic to liver and onions. And I didn't even realize what I did until later, that through my thought, through what I thought that I wasn't going to eat something, I brought something on myself that I didn't even realize that I could do. But through all that hatred and feelings of aggression, I was able to do it. Didn't even know it until, well, basically years later, that I said, wow, thought. What we think is very important, isn't it? And I was thinking pretty negatively, very negatively. And what I did was I brought, it looked like I had chicken pox or something. Measles, whatever. You know, those kind of dots were all over my body. I mean, from my head to my toes. I mean, because I went and took a shower. They wanted to make sure I wasn't faking or something. I got some kind of blah. So it was interesting, though, that that was all gone by the morning. By morning, I was like a normal child. So I was able to bring it on and get rid of it all within probably 8 to 12 hour period. So that's what I'm trying to say, kids. We have to take care of what we think about and make sure that we think as positively as we can rather than negatively. Because negatively, we'll get a response on what we're getting as well as positive. So I don't know if that would help anybody to understand what I'm saying, but it works on so many different levels when we have these negative things that pop up very quickly, sometimes more so than others, because we can't see it, we can't feel it. but eventually it comes back to us. And in my case, it was pretty much instantaneous because I had pretty much a forceful drive that I wasn't going to eat liver and onions. And it was the same time period that I ate a whole jar of mustard and I ate a whole pan of fudge. And, well, I can still eat mustard. It took years, probably 7, 8, 10 years before I could eat mustard again because I eat a jar of mustard. It's just something, But today I can eat mustard. I cannot eat fudge. I can't eat fudge. You ain't me fudge. So some things, when you really, really overdo, you tend to stay away from. Now, that showed me what anger does, to where I've only had it a few times in my life. And when I did, well, in that case, that's what I brought on myself immediately, those little red blotches, not blotches, they were like, it was definitely looked like the measles or something, man. It was like those kind of like little dots all over my body. Now, when I tapped into, when I had only probably three times in my life that I gave out anger, man, it was like, it started out slow, went boo, 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 and then I was like a whirlwind of hatred, and I tapped into something out there that I was like sucked into, to where it was like, afterwards, it was terrible. It was like a hollow feeling. It was a feeling of, oh man, why did I do that? Oh boy, that's really crummy. You don't want to, or do you? Do you want to tap into that? And what happens when you do that? You're actually feeding the negative force. When you ever have that hatred, it just happens to be that way. And when you have love, you tap into that side. So when we have love, that's positive. Hatred, that's negative. And some of us still have not learned that yet on this planet, this little lesson planet, this little schoolhouse that we're all going to hopefully graduate this time around, not have to come back again. So it's always our perception of our thought, if it's positive or negative, if it's hatred or it's love. Hatred is going to be negative. Love is going to be positive. How simple that is. And I know you kids understand it. And that's why maybe you kids are going to be the ones that really outdo a lot of the folks that are around you right now. It's going to be through you and your understanding. You little troubleshooters. You're troubleshooters. You came in from the outside into this little dark planet to be troubleshooters, to change things to where it's more light. And well, I guess you can choose either side. But Uncle Martin knows that you're going to pick the light, which is the right way to go. So that's all I have for you this Sunday, for these little stories that hopefully help somebody. So until I see you next Sunday, I want you all to be well. Aloha.